Hello, I'm Martin L. Shoemaker, one of the authors in Robots Through the Ages, an exciting new anthology coming from Blackstone Publishing, July 25th, edited by Robert Silverberg and Bryan Schmidt. This book is a history of robot stories across the field of science fiction going back more than 100 years, including 3 new stories never before seen just for this volume, including one of mine. And I have loved the stories in this volume, and I would like to put together a video reviewing each of the different stories within it and share it with you so that you can see what you can get in this amazing volume. Next in my video review of Robots Through the Ages is A Night at Moxon's by Ambrose Bierce, also published under the title Moxon's Master. It opens like this. Are you serious? Do you really believe that a machine thinks? I got no immediate reply. Moxon was apparently intent upon the coals in the grate, touching them deftly here and there with the fire poker till they signified a sense of his attentions by a brighter glow. For several weeks I had been observing him in a growing habit of delay in answering even the most trivial of commonplace questions. His error was, however, that of preoccupation rather than deliberation. One might have said that he had something on his mind. Again from A Night at Moxon's. Ambrose Bierce was famous in his day for a number of things. He was a pioneering journalist. He was a literary writer of some repute, and he was also known for his fantasy work. He was an early fantasist in the tradition of what today we might call urban fantasy or modern fantasy, not necessarily fantasy like the high elves of Tolkien and such, but more strange things happening in the world around us. He was famous for, among other things, his collection, The Devil's Dictionary. I first met him in this book, shown here on the left, The Pocket Book of Science Fiction, edited by Donald A. Wollheim. If you know your science fiction history, you recognize the name Donald A. Wollheim, founder and first editor of Daw Books, and also a writer in his own right. What you may not know is that this particular book was the first science fiction paperback anthology ever published. And it was published as a small pocket book so that it could be easily shipped over to soldiers during World War II, and also so that they could keep paper usage down and costs down because of wartime rationing. Moxon's Master, as the title I know the story by, was the second story in this book after By the Waters of Babylon by Stephen Vincent Benet, another writer who crossed lines back in that time period. And so it is a very early story in my memory because my mother owned a copy of this anthology. So Moxon's Master was either the first or second adult science fiction story I ever read. So to learn that I would have a place in an anthology beside Moxon's Master, this was an honor beyond words. It's far more than just I got to appear in this collection with a story I'm proud of. I got to appear beside some of my own personal history and, across the rest of the stories, the history of the field. The QR code on the right may help take you to a copy of this that can be purchased. Don't know how long they'll have one. It's only available in various used bookstores now. It's a great collection. Some of my favorite stories, partly because they were some of my first, but some of my favorite stories of all time are in here. It's well worth a look. So returning to Moxon. Moxon was speaking with unusual animation and earnestness. As he paused, I heard in an adjoining room, known to me as his machine shop, in which no one but himself was permitted to enter, a singular thumping sound, as of someone pounding upon a table with an open hand. Moxon heard it at the same moment and, visibly agitated, rose and hurriedly passed into the room whence it came. I thought it odd that anyone else should be in there, and my interest in my friend, with doubtless a touch of unwarrantable curiosity, led me to listen intently, though I am happy to say, not at the keyhole. There were confused sounds, as of a struggle or scuffle. The floor shook. I distinctly heard hard breathing and a hoarse whisper which said, "Damn you!" Then all was silent, and presently Moxon reappeared and said, with a rather sorry smile, "Pardon me for leaving you so abruptly. I have a machine in there that lost its temper and cut up rough." This was a very early example of the story of the conflict between the robot and its creator. And so, this story may seem familiar even if you've never read it, because so many other creators have read it or have built upon its influence without even knowing it themselves. As science fiction grandmaster Larry Niven says, science fiction is in a conversation with itself. Later writers build upon the work of earlier writers and add their own perspective to it, and you'll see that across this collection. So, A Night at Moxon's, or Moxon's Master as I know it, is the opening of the historical stories in this volume.